not shut up. So as long as I'm not out here for like an hour and a half.
But it works, man, because like as the people like you work for a documentary, the people that give me like a 2-sentence answer, I'm like, I can't fucking.
There's not much with that. Yeah, I always figure it's better to have more and then edit it down.
And that's why John McEntee from
Oh,
Education was perfect.
Yeah, that guy can talk.
He can literally, I say like a sentence and he can talk for hours.
Right.
So the next one is, what excites you about the evolution of this genre as a whole right now?
It's been weird as somebody that's been listening to, you know, underground metal or whatever now for, I guess, 30 plus years. It's interesting to sort of see how the scene, you know, mutates and evolves, but also kind of goes backwards in a cycle as well over time. And I think, you know, if you think about metal in general, you know, if you want to start it at the first Sabbath album, that's like 50 years ago. So in a lot of ways, so much of what can be done has been done. And, you know, sometimes I feel very cynical, and it's kind of like we're all just like watching the light from a star that's already died kind of a thing. But at the same time, you know, especially going out and playing with younger bands like we are on this tour, seeing younger kids and how enthusiastic they are, and the fact that this kind of music still strikes a chord with people is really invigorating, and it's exciting. You know, as a dude that's in his 40s, you know, like most people, I'm a bit set in my ways, and I've listened mostly to stuff I grew up on. I listen to all kinds of music, though. Like, we listen to all kinds of shit in the van and, you know, at home or whatever. But I just think the fact that it's still going is really exciting. If you would have told me in high school that, like, you know, Napalm Death and Carcass and Morbid Angel and all these bands would still be touring, I would have been like, yeah, right, come on, man. But it's great that they are, and I think, you know, especially the last 15, 20 years has probably been the best time to be into metal ever, because you get, you know, now it's starting to ebb where there's no more Motorhead, you know, like Glenn Tipton can't play anymore, there's no more Black Sabbath, but about 10 years ago you could sort of still see all of these progenitor type bands as well as the new up and coming bands, and you know, I think people, you know, they kind of take it for granted that all this stuff is happening concurrently, and you know, because they don't know any different, and that's fine. But it's been a really cool thing to see the love for the whole lifespan of the genre, from Sabbath to Deep Purple to new wave of British heavy metal to, you know, proto metal, thrash metal, Black Death, blah blah blah, whatever. And you know, I think it's shocking sort of how healthy the underground is in a great way, though.
Dude, when I saw Barney, I was like, he looks so young.
Right, because he doesn't party anymore. He's smart.
He takes care of himself.
Right.
I remember looking at him and I'm like, he definitely, like, he's smart, so he's definitely like knowledgeable and older in that aspect. But
right.
Like, physically, he looks like he's like
with 35, yeah, totally.
And I'm like,
you son of a bitch, Barney.
I'm like, what the fuck are you like? What? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it blows my mind. So this is a good one. So back when death metal started, and people were like, "Whoa, what is this?" Like death metal, like Cannibal. They were like, "What is this imagery? This is kind of fucked up." You know. How do you think in 10 years people are going to be able to push this type of music like to the boundaries, or do you think it's like kind of maxed out?
I think it's maxed out as far as like pushing the envelope, because the only thing really you can do that's sort of more extreme than what we've already seen and what we've seen 30 years ago really is stuff that sort of goes beyond the boundaries of taste, you know, like making a band about pedophilia, like that's extreme. It's not good. Like, don't do that. I mean, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to live their lives, but don't fucking do that, you know? Aside from like murder, necrophilia, cannibalism, mutilation, serial killers, I mean, like, what is there from there, you know? And I think that's kind of been, you know, the strength of death metal, and also the limitation, which doesn't really bother me, is that you sort of start out in a corner and there's not really anywhere to go except kind of to mellow out, you know? And it also gets to the point where, especially older bands that have several albums out, you know, if you're really trying to be edgy, it can come off as sort of, you know, kind of sad, like a 40-year-old guy at a frat party, like, hey, my dudes, like, what? Let's play beer pong, guys. And, you know, so I think it's kind of a weird thing to see a band like Cannibal Corpse, who is aging very gracefully and still making really good records, but it's just a weird concept for a death metal band, you know? I think that, yeah, anything that's more extreme than what's been done is going to go beyond the boundaries of taste, and especially in the climate right now, even if you're like, we're not a Nazi pedophilia band, we're just joking. It's like, this is not the time for those kinds of jokes. Like, that's not funny anymore. You know, it was barely funny like when Anal Cunt was doing it in the 90s, and that time has long since passed. So I think it's kind of a weird thing, you know, because obviously it's death metal, it's gross, it's offensive, it's upsetting, it's confrontational, but there is still some kind of line, you know, and I think people in the scene have always known that the line exists. Nobody bought an Autopsy record and thought, oh, well, clearly these guys are like fucking corpses. Like, of course. It was the people on the outside, you know, the Tipper Gores and the Bob Doles of the world who are like, oh, I don't know about these guys. So I think within the metal scene, we've all known that there's a boundary between fantasy and reality, you know. Even, you know, in 1982, I don't think people thought Venom were like really sacrificing virgins or whatever. So I think that as long as you're playing within that sort of realm, then, you know, you're going to be good. It's just if you're trying to go beyond the boundaries of taste and just sort of doing something that's shocking just to be shocking, I mean, you might get a reaction, but it's probably not going to be the one you want. It's going to be like, boycott this band, don't go to their shows, don't fucking sign them, don't distribute their records kind of thing, you know?
So the button on your shirt, man, Ruin, I think they're, like, right now.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, the sound, the throats he pulls out, man, like that to me is like the top.
I agree.
I like death metal because, like, even bands like Fluids, man. I don't know. Do you know Fluids?
Yeah, I know Fluids. I like Fluids.
They, to me, they push it because, like literally, the song starts out with this kid's like, "I'm killing myself. I have blood coming out of my lungs." I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And like, you feel it before the song even.
Right. I think, you know, Ruin, it's weird because I've known Mike for decades now at this point. And this might be my favorite project of his. I used to play in Grave Hill with him, and I had a great time, but I think this kind of goes beyond, you know, no offense to Gasp or Grave Hill or anything he's done, but it really captures a sort of like filthy outsider sense, you know, that when you're playing like athletic music that's like super well executed and super tight, you kind of crossed over from like the nerds to the jocks of your group, you know what I mean? And I always tell Mike, I'm like, God, stop making records, man. You're making Exhumed sound like fucking Dawkins. And I love Dawkins, so I guess it's not that bad. But no, sometimes it's like you listen to a Ruin album and you're like, wow, I gotta take a shower now. Like, it's fucking, it's great. I love it.
It's one of the grossest bands.
Absolutely. I think really, period. Not just now.
The thing is, like, Mike's personality, like, I mean, I've talked to him a few times, like, through the zine, and, like, he sent me, like, a big...
Oh, he's the best pen pal in the world.
And, like, I'm like, bro, like, I just put you in my zine, like, you didn't have to do that.
Right.
And he was just, like, the nicest dude ever. And I'm like, how could he write the most fucked up shit? It just works out. I
mean, you know, Mike is, he is a lovely guy, and he's a great friend, but he's also lived through some scummy experiences, you know? So I think he has the benefit of hindsight. He can look back and laugh, but he also is like, well.
All right, so the next one